Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer. It is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today, I wanted to go through what we've been able to work out so far about the 3.9 Atlas system. So this is the Conquerors of the Atlas content that was added just a couple of days ago. This is an important disclaimer though. Not everything about this Atlas is known yet, and there's undoubtedly things that some people in the community have worked out and are keeping hush-hush for advantage in the Awaken to Kill race, or just haven't thought to broadcast to other people as yet. So not everything is known about the Atlas yet. This is based upon my personal experience. I believe this to be accurate, but undoubtedly I could well have made mistakes, and I don't yet know all of the mechanics involved. Among other things, I do not yet know the mechanics required to spawn Sirius, the Awakener of Worlds. That is certainly known by some people in Standard because he has been killed there, but we'll have to figure out exactly how that goes. So, there's three main parts to an Atlas guide. The first one is getting started. It's breaking out of white tier maps, getting yourself to a point that you're able to start running yellow maps, start running red maps, and to get all of the early Atlas quests done. The second part is manipulating your Atlas for strategically, and the third part of an Atlas guide is actual concrete strategies. This is only part one. This is a guide to getting started with the new Atlas of Worlds. It does not cover the ins and outs of how you might decide strategically which sections of the Atlas that you want to level up and which ones you do not. So, the first thing you'll notice is there are 8 octants in the Atlas at the moment. Each of them has a name, which is a useful little addition that has been put in. We didn't know about this until it went live, but all of them have little names that are useful. So there's 8 different tiers, and all of them are pretty low tier maps to start. So if you have a look at Lex Proxima at the moment, this is a tier 0 area, so I've put no watchstones in it. And you'll see that every map here is low tier. Tier 3 Bog, Tier 2 Desert, Tier 3 Bazaar, Tier 2 Fields, Tier 1 Jungle Valley, Tier 2 Underground Sea, Tier 2 Mausoleum, Tier 2 Haunted Mansion, Tier 2 Ashen Wood, Tier 3 Cemetery, Tier 2 Orchid, Tier 3 Belfry, Tier 3 Hallowed Ground Unique Map, Tier 4 Crystal Ore, Tier 3 Volcano, Tier 3 Dunes, Tier 3 Arsenal, and Tier 3 Bog, and I think that's everything. And there's also Pillars of Arun here. So as you can see, there's a lot of low tier maps, and every zone of the Atlas is like this when you start. The highest tier maps you'll have access to at the very beginning are Tier 5 maps like Canyon, Reef, and Chateau is another one that's Tier 5 to begin with. And so is Tower, for that matter. So basically, each of the outermost octants has a tier 5 in it. Each of the innermost octants seems to cap at 3. Now, the goals that you've got. Firstly, you're going to need to kill Kitava as per normal, and then follow a short 5 to 10 minute quest given by a new NPC called Kirac. You will meet Officer Kirac in the Epilogue. You'll talk to him. He is looking for his brother Baran. Baran was known to hang around with some shady people, specifically a Zana Caeserius, who is a rebel that Officer Kirac has been investigating, and everyone that's been hanging around her seems to be going a little bit mad. So Kirac's investigating Zana Caeserius, and asks for you to help. Zana is not in the Epilogue at this point, and you do a quick quest, and just basically it's like running a couple of short half-length tier 1 maps, and then once you've done that, you get access to a new map device that you build. That new map device is ridiculously big, and you'll want to replace it with a small size one in most hideouts. Of course, your mileage may vary. Now, one thing that I do want to point out though before going any further is just how the tiers work. This is not something that's available to you early on. You've got these watchstones. You'll be able to loot these, and I'll discuss how you get your first 4 of them, and then your second 4. There's special mechanics for the first 4, and then there's a second set of special mechanics for the second 4, and then once you've got the first 8, then the next 24 of them are all pretty straightforward. So what these do is they let you modify a region of the Atlas. You'll see over here in this zone called Lyra Athane that I've got 2, you can't actually tell because it's currently influenced, and so the 2 zones that are the 2 watchtower stones in there are locked in permanently at the moment. But this zone has 2 watchstones in it. When it's got no watchstones in it, Tower is a tier 5 map. When it's got 1, Tower is a tier 9. When it's got 2, Tower jumps up to a tier 12. You can see there's quite a big jump there. Additionally, a number of maps become visible that are not visible on a tier 0 version of the Atlas. In order to socket a watchstone, what you need to do, they're just a quest item, and you take it, you can put it in your inventory like this, and then drag it. But what's important, and this is not intuitive, or this was not intuitive to me. I thought, oh yeah, I'm just going to drag it and drop it. Oops, I actually got it right then. I'm just going to drag it and drop it into this area, and it's not working. You need to drag it and drop it onto the actual red socket there. So like a gem, rather than just putting it into the item. That's counterintuitive, and I do hope they change that, because it took me far too long, embarrassingly long, to work out why I wasn't able to use these watchstones. There's no real difference between which watchstones are in there. It only matters the quantity, as far as I can tell. So 1 stone, 2 stones, 3 stones, 4 stones. It doesn't matter what combination of red, green, yellow, and blue you've got. However, you're only going to get a certain number of each colour, and this means that if you're having particular problem with one of the bosses, because each boss drops a certain colour of watchstone, then in that case, you might find that your progression is a little bit limited. Anyways, let's get back to the actual chain that you're going to need to do in order to break out of white maps. So, step 1 is you're going to need 4 parts of this chain, and you're going to be able to progress all of them simultaneously. So, the first thing you need to do is visit all 4 of the outer octants. So these are these octants, if I can just remove that, these octants are Kirac Hamlet in the top left, New Vestia in the bottom left, Lyra Athane in the bottom right, and Lex Ajoris in the top right. Visit each of these octants, and just start running maps out there. Now, the key thing here is that you need to traverse through the Atlas of Worlds to get to these maps. Normally, a lot of players have gotten used to the idea that you need to do all the tier 1 maps first, then all the tier 2s, then all the tier 3s, and so on and so on. This is no longer the case. My recommendation to you is that you ruthlessly prioritize pushing out to the 4 distant octants first. This is your first priority. You can fill in all your holes later, and we'll get to when you would want to fill in those holes. Zana daily missions will help a lot, because sometimes you'll be running a map. You might be in Glenark Cans, sort of trying to progress to New Vestia. Maybe you've gone Beach, which would be, let's just change the tier so that you see what it looks like at first. You've run Beach, and then you've run Armory, and then you've run Racecourse, and then you've been given Moon Temple and Cage, and then you go into these and you start running them. So you might be working on those and be in Racecourse, and then suddenly you could get a Zana mission that takes you to Dunes map. That's really useful if it happens. It saves you a bunch of stuffing around. Also, you should look for, sometimes there'll be maps that are just stubborn and don't want to drop for you. It never hurts to get those out of the way with a Zana mission as well. So Zana missions will help you teleport around the Atlas like that, as will Horizon Orbs, as will acquiring maps from other sources, such as divination cards. There is a divination card that drops in the foothills that gives you a tier 5 map for a set of 3 of them. That's quite useful here. Although I didn't think of that at the time, it's something I thought of after I was already playing around with the Atlas a little bit. So, in each of these outer octants, so let's say you're focusing on Kirac Hamlet, you want to just run a bunch of different maps in that area. You won't necessarily own enough maps to do this at first, but just keep running what you've got, and eventually you'll start looting other ones that you haven't done yet. And the more of them that you run, the more access you'll get to the rest of the maps in the area. And eventually, an Elder Slayer will pop in and say hello after a small number of maps. Now, when I did this, it was random. I do believe it's been changed, and now it happens that it happens deterministically after you've run 3 different maps in the area. But I can't confirm that, because when I did it, it was random. It took me quite a while in Lyra Athane. It took me almost no time in Lex Ajoris and in New Vestia, and Kirac Hamlet was in between. So yeah, I've heard 3 different maps, but I'm not absolutely positive that's the case. Anyways, they'll pop in, they'll say hello. Then at this point, the area of this region will become coloured like Lyra Athane is now. That means that some of the maps in this area are going to be influenced by one of the 4 factions. I believe the first one you encounter will be Baran, who is a Templar. who is the Templar Conqueror and is the easiest of the 4 to kill, but we'll have to find that out by doing more testing. Now, once you discover the influence map, run it and beat it, you will then be you'll be given a new quest by Kirac, and that quest will just be as simple as go and talk to Zana. When you talk to Zana, she will offer you a new dialogue option, which will be sort of somewhere around the area, somewhere down here near the Elder Slayer's quest.
Stay inquisitive.
When you get that, it'll be to open a portal to the Citadel that is going to be up in this area. Now, for me, not for Lyra Athane, but for the Lexajoris, mine was on Canyon, and that's why the Watchtower is connected to Canyon. I believe that will always be the case, that she will open up a portal to Canyon for me, and I'm not certain that other players will have Canyon connected to the Watchtower. You might have it somewhere else. I don't know that yet. Gonna have to figure that out as we run the Atlas a few more times on new leagues. So you'll then go and you will fight this. You'll fight your way through this map. This will just be a white map. So white as in it will be the same tier as the map on your Atlas, but it will be white in that it won't have any map mods. It'll be like you just scoured a map. So, you know, a Canyon map that's just been scoured. It will have extra monsters in it because of the influence in the zone. Once you've done that, then at that point, you will, instead of just killing the boss and leaving, a portal will open up when you kill the boss. This portal will be like the Elder Guardian portals, if you're familiar with those. It'll take you into a whole new instance, and in that whole new instance, you will get to fight the Conqueror. Don't be too worried about the Tier 4 Conquerors. Give you a bit of a sense of what to expect. The Templar-themed one is the easiest of them and requires a little bit of precision dodging at times, but doesn't really hit very hard except with telegraphed attacks. If you see him channeling up a big attack, just get the hell out of the way, and if you see tiles on the ground light up, don't stand on them. But you will have already learnt this because a lot of the monsters that are in the Templar imbued areas will use those same mana runes that are his big sort of attack that lights up squares on the ground. The other 3 Elder Slayers are a little bit harder than him, but not too bad at low tier. And you will then run through all of those. So once you've done this, your goal is to, in each of the 4 outer octants, firstly spawn the Elder Slayer by just running maps in the area, then continuing to run maps once they're influenced, then talk to Zana, get a portal in, and go and kill them. Once you've done that, you'll be rewarded by receiving access to the Watchtower, and in addition, you will get one of these Watchstones. These Watchstones, you can socket them aside. They'll have one particular spot that they can just be stored. This is just a storage area on the left-hand side of the screen. But for them to actually have an effect on your Atlas, you want to have them actually socketed into one of the Watchtowers. At this point, you've completed the first part of Zana's new chain. Once you've earned access to these 4 Watchtowers, there's also one in Lyra Athane you can't see at the moment because it's being used. And you'll also have your first 4 Watchstones. So you'll have one of each colour. At this point, it can seem tempting to just shove all of them into one zone of the Atlas. I want to really strongly advise you not to do this. Don't just turbocharge one octant of the Atlas up to tier 4, because if you accidentally spawn a Conqueror in it, you will have a lot of trouble unspawning that Conqueror. And until you unspawn that Conqueror, you cannot modify that area of the Atlas. So you'll be in a lot of trouble because all your Watchstones will be locked up and gated behind a fight that you might not be able to beat at the moment. So yeah, by all means stick 1 or 2 of them in an area, but I'd avoid sticking all 4 in one. Now once you've played around a little bit with the Watchstones, your next goal is going to be to find the 4 different Elder Slayers in different areas of the Atlas. So what's going to happen is that they will retreat to these intersections: Turn's End, Glenmark Cans, Valdo's Rest, and Lex Proxima. However, when they retreat, they will not, because these map tiers are so low in these areas when they're not upgraded, the Conquerors will not spawn in them until you level that octant of the Atlas up. So what you're going to need to do firstly is find the watchtower in each of these octants. This is just a matter of running every map in the zone until you find the watchtower. It may be random, or you may have them in the same places that they've spawned for me. So for me, Overgrown Rune guards the one from Veldo's Rest. Lex Proxima's one is in the Bog map. The one for Turn's End is in Alleyways. And the one for the Glenark Cans is in Coves. However, your mileage may vary. You might need to just run every single map until you find them. Once you've found these, you'll then be able to stick a single watchstone, or more than one if you want, into that area of the Atlas. And then start running maps from it, and at this point you will be able to spawn the Elder Slayers in there. The way that you spawn them is pretty similar to the mechanics of spawning them in the outer zones. You just run a bunch of different maps within the area, just keep running different ones until you find the ones that you want, but importantly, they need to be at least a certain minimum tier. I haven't been able to work out what that minimum tier is yet. I kind of suspect that it might be tier 4, but this is currently unknown information. So you might not own any tier 4 maps in an octant that are, say for instance, Glenark Cans. Let's just bring this one up. I'm going to drop it down to tier 0, so no watchstones in there. We've got Colonnade, we've got Plaza, Lava Chamber are all tier 4, and Shore. And the rest of it is, I believe, all lower. So you can see here, it's all lower except for those ones. So this means that you may not own, certainly won't own any tier 5 and higher maps from this octant. But once you socket a watchstone in there, this now means that any map drops that you earn from other sections of the Atlas can drop as these maps. So what you should do at this point is start running your higher tier maps. So socket a single watchstone into Glenark Cans, and then just start running your highest tier maps that you own. While you're doing this, sometimes you will get lucky and you'll get a map drop that is from this octant. Once that happens, it will be at the higher tier. The lower tier ones can't drop anymore. And then you might have a Fungal Hollow tier 5. That's great. Go and run it. At that point, not only is this helping you fill in the holes for your Atlas bonus, you can see here that I would love to get a tier 5 Fungal Hollow drop at the moment. But in addition to helping you with that, it could be the one that causes an Elder Slayer to start taking an interest in the area. Once they've taken an interest in the area, keep running maps in that zone, and eventually you'll get a map that is occupied by them. And once you beat that, you will then get the ability to conjure a portal to a map that leads to their sanctum. You're going to need to do all 4 of these upgrade all 4 of these inner octants once. Once you've done that, that's the second major stage of starting up your Atlas. So the first stage is traversing to the outer quadrants and leveling them up, and killing a Conqueror of the Atlas in each of those. The second step is discovering the watchtowers in the inner octants and leveling up those zones, and then finding a Conqueror. So luring the Conqueror first by upgrading the tier of the Atlas at least once, and then running maps in the area until you find them. Now, once you've done this, you're then going to want to start filling out your Atlas, and this is the stage that I'm currently at. Each octant holds a green, yellow, blue, and red watchstone. Each of them has a minimum tier that the zone must be leveled up to in order to spawn that Exile. But have a look at Hayward Hamlet here. You can see from looking at the text here that to attract the Conqueror that gives the red watchstone, which is Baran, this zone needs to be leveled up to at least level 2. Region level 2 means that it must have at least 2 watchstones in it. At that point, the region of the Atlas is high enough tier that it can conceivably attract Baran. Green means that the Hunter can be pulled there. Blue, I believe, is the Redeemer, and yellow is the other one. I don't know all their names yet. We'll sort of learn those over time, but for the moment, that means that if you can get this zone, if you can get this octant up to level 2, and then just start running maps in it, then you will be able to spawn all 4 different exiles there. Sorry, not exiles, conquerors. And then once you fight them, you'll be able to obtain the red, the green, the yellow, and the blue stones that come out of Haywark Hamlet. They're not locked to only being used in Haywark Hamlet. You can use them wherever you want. And as you can see, I've earned the blue one, but it is currently tied up in Lyra Athane. So currently it is one of the 2 watchstones, along with the yellow one that's come from probably from Lex Ajorcus. Yeah, so the green watchstone, the blue watchstone from Haywark Hamlet and the yellow watchstone from Lex Ajorcus are currently powering up Lyra Athane to level 2. And that's just the way I've got my Atlas set up at the moment. Of course, you can always change that. You don't need to do it in exactly the same order that I am. So my next strategy is going to be in Lyra Athane. I want to try and obtain another one of the watchstones from this zone. And so you'll see here that I have not yet obtained the green watchstone, but that I'm able to do it now. Because it's at least level 1, and in fact it's level 2, it's high enough to spawn the hunter. And so I'm now at the point that when I run maps in Lyra Athane, there is a good chance that I will then get to encounter the hunter, fight the hunter, and if I'm able to down the hunter successfully, then I will get the green watchstone that is from Lyra Athane. So goal at this point is of course just going to be to farm either all 32 of them, if you're a completionist, or if you're running an Atlas strategy that requires that, or alternately, you can just fill out until you get to the point that you feel that you've got all of the watchstones that you want for the moment. If at any point you don't want to be using all your watchstones, you can store them in this section over here. So once you've earned them for good. They're yours for the whole league. But the ones that you don't want to use, you can just store them there. So fundamentally, your goal is to kill Baran in every octant. And some of them there'll be a minimum level, like region level 2. I've already done that, but it was region level 1. This is region level 2. This is region level 2. Region level 2. Region level 2. Region level 2. And region level 0. So you want to follow all of those minimum requirements and kill Baran in every octant. Kill all of the other conquerors in every octant. Now, once you've done this, you'll notice that the center of my Atlas looks a little bit different to yours. When you socket all 4 watchstones, so 1 yellow, 1 blue, 1 green, and 1 red, into the same octant for the first time, you'll bring up the Awakening bonus interface. What the Awakening bonus is, this is firstly, having a single section of your Atlas tiered up to level 4 like that causes all the bosses on the Atlas to become slightly harder. They get slight numerical bonuses, and additionally they gain considerable bonuses to loot. When you kill a boss that is in a tier 14 or higher map with an Awakening bonus in place, you will gain a quite considerable additional loot, and you'll be able to see all of the details when you mouse over this 0 here when it is not a 0. This counter goes from 0 to 8 as the number of completed, as you fill out more watchtowers to level 4. So it'll be a counter of the number of currently level 4 ones that you've got, and it will go up and up and up. Additionally, you'll see here there's this Awakening bonus objectives. This is a separate bonus to your Atlas bonus that has half the effect, but that is considerably more powerful in one way, in that it stacks. And it gives you a chance to gain another 77 points of Atlas bonus, conceivably taking your Atlas bonus to a monumental 231. In order to get these though, you will need to do a hard mode of the map. So you'll see here for Pier, in order to get the bonus, you need to complete this map when it's magic or higher. In order to get the Awakening bonus, you need to complete it when it is tier 14 and when your Atlas is awakened to level 1 or higher. In order to get it on Peninsula, again, tier 14 or higher map with Awakening level 1. Some of them, though, require higher Awakening levels. Awakening level 2, Awakening level 3, Awakening level 4. And in particular, the maps that are hidden by default tend to be more and more nasty in how high your awakening level needs to be in order to earn that awakening bonus. I suggest you think of this as an additional bonus you can chase. It's not something to go for straight away unless you feel you're really, really, really powerful. It's something that you can chase over time and have as a bit of a whole of league goal. It's also possible, and it's what I certainly suspect, that some of the some of the Conqueror-specific loot, such as the Awakener-specific Exalted Orbs, so the Conqueror's Exalted Orb and the like, and the Awakened Support Gems. It's my suspicion that some of these might be gated behind having a certain Awakener level, which would explain why there's almost none of these items currently available for trade in the Metamorph League. So I was expecting that there'd be a significant number of the less popular support gems, the Awakened support gems, being traded at the moment, and there's just not very many of them at all. So what I'm thinking might be happening here, you might need to get up to Awakener Tier 5 or so, which I don't think many players at all would have yet. And once you've done that, then Tier 14 and higher map bosses, Tier 14 and higher Conquerors might then start dropping the Awakened support gems. This is all hypothesis at the moment. We will know a lot more of this over time. Anyways, as I say, once more, this is based upon what we know so far. There are potentially mistakes in this. There are potentially misunderstandings on my part, but I hope it's useful to get yourself started. So remember, first goal after you do all of the minor NPC dialogue is to push out to the four furthest quadrants. Don't bother about getting every single map on the way. You fix that up later. Push out to those and then do maps in those. Keep doing that until you find the Watchtower and the Conqueror that's with it. Kill the Conqueror, earn the Watchstone and the Watchtower. Then do that in all 4 outer octants. Then next, in the 4 inner octants, find the Watchtowers that you haven't already found by just running maps and completing them. And then going through portals if any of them spawn. And once you've done them, once you've done all of those, then start socketing these watchtowers with the watchstones. We'll socket the inner watchtowers with the watchstones that you looted from the outer octants, rank them up to 1, and then go and beat up the Conquerors again at a slightly higher level inside the inner zones. And then once you've done that, it's time to do the Grand Tour, spawn each of the given Conquerors in as many of the sections of the Atlas as you're able to beat them in, and keep doing this until you have enough watchstones to set up your perfect Atlas. But if you've got any comments or questions, I would certainly be happy to try and answer them, so fire away below. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. I hope you have a good one.